When we build a bridge, we use physics, right? When we do surgery, we use biology. But what about when we build an entire society? What's the standard we use for that? We're going to dive into a pretty provocative argument that says, for the most important project we've ever undertaken, we might not have a standard at all.
So, let's just start with the big, arresting question that kicks this whole thing off. Think about it. We've got professional standards for just about everything, from engineering to medicine. But what about society itself? Sure, governments, political parties, religions, they all have their ideas. But is there a universal, scientific standard? The argument we're going to unpack today says the answer is a hard no, and that this huge gap is the real source of our biggest, most stubborn problems.
Now, to really build this case, the source starts somewhere, well, a little unexpected. A farm. Yeah, it uses the science of raising animals as this powerful analogy for how we manage, or maybe more accurately, mismanage ourselves. Let's see how this plays out.
At its heart, the idea is that we, humans, are kind of instinctively scientific. We follow this really simple, logical process, right? First, you learn about something, plants, animals, whatever. Then, you apply what you've learned to get what you want. And finally, you get a predictable result. We've been doing this for thousands of years, all the way from the first farmers to modern-day scientists.
And this is where that farm analogy really starts to click. With livestock, our goal is crystal clear, and it's based on biology. We want a very specific, measurable outcome. More meat, faster. More milk. The whole system, every part of it, is engineered to hit that single objective.
And here is where you see the massive contrast. On one side, you have animal management. It's based on science with a clear physical goal. But then you look at how we manage human society, and the source asks, what's our basis of knowledge? It's often just a big question mark. And the goal? Well, the author argues it isn't our collective well-being. It's something totally different, getting us to trust, to obey, to worship. I mean, those two approaches could not be further apart.
So that stark difference leads us right into the core critique from the source, what it calls the fundamental problem with how we try to manage ourselves as a species.
This all builds up to the central accusation, and it's a heavy one. Quote, "Humanity has proceeded to build and manage human society without a precise understanding of itself." The argument is just, wow, we've built our entire world without a scientific blueprint for the main component, us. We apply science to everything else, but we've completely failed to apply it to ourselves.
So the author really boils it down to two fundamental flaws that are at the very heart of our societies. First, we're just winging it, operating without a precise scientific understanding of what a human being actually is. And second, our systems are often built for the completely wrong goal. Instead of trying to optimize for human well-being, they're designed to demand our obedience and our devotion. According to this text, these two flaws, they're the source of pretty much all of our recurring conflicts and failures.
Okay, so if that's the problem, what's the solution? The text doesn't just point fingers, it actually proposes a radically different foundation for society, something it calls a new human standard.
And this is the core of the whole proposal, a required universal standard for anyone involved in managing society. This standard wouldn't be based on tradition or some political ideology. No, it would be based on two things. First, hard, measurable facts about our bodies, these physiological metrics. Think about measuring stress hormones in response to city noise or cognitive load from dealing with bureaucracy. And second, a deep, real understanding of how our minds actually work, the human thinking function. It's a call to govern with the same scientific rigor we'd use to build a spaceship.
And to make the point really sharp, the author lists everything this standard would throw out. It's a total rejection of religious theory, political ideology, the whims of a ruler, and get this, even the preferences of the people being governed. The argument is that the rules for a healthy society should be as objective as the rules for a healthy body. They just shouldn't be up for debate. And the author really does not mince words here. Any attempt to manage society based on any of those other non-scientific approaches is just dismissed. It's not just seen as wrong, but as ignorant, foolish, and fundamentally anti-human. It's a really strong, uncompromising stance that basically frames this as the only logical path forward.
And so, that brings us to this, a final question that takes this entire argument and puts it right in your hands. If we were to actually build a society based on a human standard, the way an engineer builds a machine, what would we even measure? What would be our key performance indicators? What metrics would truly tell us we're building a successful civilization? It's a question that really challenges the very foundation of the world we've built.